Eric Kapitulik's story begins with a moment that would break most people, a helicopter crash that took 6 of his fellow Marines. But what defines him isn't what happened that day, it's what he decided to do after.
A tough person has an ability to stay mission focused in the face of physical, mental, and emotional adversity. That's how we define tough.
This is the WorkReady Podcast. If you're out there putting in long shifts, carrying heavy loads, and still trying to save energy for home, this podcast is for you. We share the same kind of field-tested tools we use with the pros, but made for workforce athletes like you. If that's the journey you're on, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next step forward. Hello and welcome to the WorkReady Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Rindall. So happy to be here today with Eric Kapitulik. You grew up in Connecticut. Mom was a teacher, dad was a police officer. Tell us a little bit about your growing up and how those things shaped who you are today.
Yeah, I appreciate the question because as an old battalion commander used to say, a man, and I use that term universally, person, this was a Marine Corps infantry battalion, so it was men at the time, but it holds true for all of us. But a person is a sum of their experiences, and one of those experiences, certainly, and an incredibly important one, is your childhood development. And boy, with that, a lot of us either just get lucky or unlucky. Well, I happen to be one of the lucky ones who, as you said, had a dad who's a policeman, mom's a school teacher. We grew up on a 100-acre farm here in Connecticut. We didn't have a ton of money. I don't know what the socioeconomic background is of many of your listeners, but if they had a dad who's a policeman, a mom's a school teacher, they'll know that you probably did not have really lavish vacations or a dream home necessarily, or even a pool in the back. But we got the really important things, or at least I did, which was a lot of love and a lot of guidance and safety.
Yeah, I love that. And your book, you go into great detail about core values, and we'll dive into that. But, you can share what your core values are. But I think one thing that stood out to me as I was preparing for this interview, I remember you telling a story about you're 15 years old and you were doing a landscaping project with, I think it was your wrestling coach.
Yeah.
And things just weren't quite right. And you couldn't get this one rock into place, and it festered in the back of your mind. Can you share that story? I love it.
Thanks.
Because I think it's a metaphor for who you are. And as I go through your life, I keep seeing that pattern.
Yeah, well, thanks. So do I. I think back to that a lot. I would like to start, though, with the truth, which is I was never a wrestler. Now, the gentleman that I was working with, he was our high school wrestling coach, but he was also the college counselor. And I was never tough enough, doctor, to be a wrestler. I played basketball. Like, you have to be a true tough guy to be a wrestler, right? I'm a fake tough guy. So I played hoops and wave to the crowd type of thing. So blame my teammates. So, but in the summers I did work building stone walls with our high school wrestling coach, and we did it all by hand. And on this one project, we just had this monster stone, and we just couldn't get it to sit right in the stone wall as the base of this stone wall. So at the end of the day, he just said, "Hey, Eric, we're tired. Go home. We'll deal with this thing in the morning." Well, I went home but this stone I couldn't sleep. It was just bothering me that it beat me. So got back on my bike, cruised a couple miles. Like, in my head, it was 20 miles. It was probably a mile and a half, but in my head, it's 20 miles, back down to this stone wall, and me by myself with my headlamp on, just worked and worked and worked, and finally got it into position and went home. Next morning I show up, and my college counselor, the wrestling coach, is looking at the stone wall the way Pinocchio's dad looks at it, like, what in the heck happened here last night? Like, how did this happen? And I just said, I I couldn't let it beat me. Like I had to come and get this done. I don't know why. I was just 15 years old, right? I didn't think about core values at the time or any of that stuff. And I think that is probably a little bit of nature and probably a little bit of nurture, both, right? Like most things in life. And that idea of just finishing the job, the last 5% has been a constant in my life throughout my life. And by the way, Mr. Merjan ended up writing my college essay that got me into the Naval Academy about that one story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, then you go into the Naval Academy, you play lacrosse, and then you graduate and then go into the Marine Special Forces. Talk to us about that theme of, like, to me, that almost feels like the genesis of this toughness. You say you're not tough, but I would disagree with you. But just
Yeah.
this grit and this resilience. I'd love to
Yeah.
hear a little bit more about how that helped you from a development standpoint.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, look, I joke about the toughness piece. I probably think it is maybe one of my hallmarks, certainly one of my values, core values. But if you were to ask me, what is my number one core value, it, I think it would be discipline. And I do what I say I'm going to do, and that's not just for others. I do what I say I'm going to do to myself. You're going to do this, and I commit to it and I do it. The with the decision to go to the Naval Academy, and that really has been a hallmark throughout the rest of my life, which, I went there, it really wasn't for some love of country or to serve in the military. I'm kind of a, young, know nothing 17-year-old kid at the time deciding where you're going to go to college. And ultimately, I chose to go there because it scared me a little bit. Like, I didn't know if I could do it. And that is something that has driven me my whole life. Like, I choose to do things that make me a little bit nervous. Now, those things that make me nervous, that's I think much different than like a thrill seeker. Certainly I don't break the law, right? Any of that stuff. It's just, yeah, hey, can I do this? And this desire and really need to get outside my comfort zone. And that has been a constant. That is why I went to the Naval Academy. It's why I chose to go in the Marines. I was nervous. I didn't know if I could be a Marine officer. It's why I chose to go in special operations. It's why I got out of the Marines. It made me nervous. I know it's tough for a lot of listeners to believe this, but whatever you do becomes comfortable, and it had become comfortable for me. And now the Marines are awesome, and the services are awesome. That they'll always keep giving you a different job to get you outside your comfort zone. But that is one of the reasons why I got out. Hey, I want to go to business school. I want to try to start my own company. It makes me nervous. So that really has been consistent throughout my life, and really. I tell my kids all the time, don't go to the Naval Academy, don't go in the Marines, don't do any of that stuff unless you want to do so. Don't do the things that Dad did just because, Dad did them. Do the things you want to do. I do hope that mindset, they use that same mindset in whatever they choose to do in life.
Yeah. That mindset is so powerful. And on December 9th, 1999, there was a pretty dark day in American history. I was actually a freshman in college at Point Loma Nazarene
Oh,
University.
wow.
That tragedy happened right off of Point Loma,
It did.
and so I remember it very, very clearly.
Yes.
A helicopter was coming in. You're doing a training exercise, came in pretty hot and low, and then got tangled up in the netting on the side of the boat.
Right.
And unfortunately,
seven of the 18 members on that flight perished. But can you tell us a little bit about that? You share it
Yeah.
in your keynote address, but definitely, I would imagine a pivotal time. The other thing too is, a lot of our listeners, they're working on the front lines. They see tragedy, they see death at times, they experience hard situations, and um, you know, maybe even share just like some encouraging words of how you process that and work through that experience.
Yeah, sure. I really appreciate the question. Yes, on December 9th, 1999, we were training, my platoon and I, we were training for upcoming deployment to the Persian Gulf when the helicopter that myself and 10 of my Force Reconnaissance Marines was riding in, rather than coming in to the ship in a 60-foot hover over it, where we kick a fast rope down and slide down the fast rope, take over the ship, rather than coming into a 60-foot hover over the ship we were practicing taking over. It came in too low and too fast and struck the side of it. When we take ships down, Kevin, we would wear between 50 and 75 pounds of gear, weapons, equipment, ammunition. The helicopter pilot, recognizing his error, pulled on the collective, which would typically give lift to a helicopter. But on that particular day, the back left wheel had become entangled in this thick metal netting that surrounds many cargo vessels, causing the helicopter, with its back left wheel still stuck, to become vertical in the air, invert on itself, and then plunge into the Pacific Ocean. Ultimately, 6 of the 10 of us on board, 6 of my 10 teammates lost their life that day. Definitely getting back to the comment I made at the start of this conversation, we are all a sum of our experiences. And that is certainly a pivotal one in my life. A couple of things there surrounding it, and boy, I don't know if we have enough time today to go over all of them, but a couple of things stand out from it. Number one, my commanding officer, when we had new Marines join our team and we're going to deploy to the Persian Gulf, his guidance, Colonel Coates, Robert Coates, is a legend in the Marine Corps. His guidance was, your Marines, these special operations warriors, like, yeah, okay, something tragic happened. It's sad. They didn't join this unit to be babied. They didn't join this unit to sit on their butt. They joined this unit, like you did, to be challenged. It's your job to continue challenging them. A little bit of, or a lot of, know your troops. know your people. Know their why. Important on the 70-degree and sunny days. Really important when all heck is breaking loose, right? Number one. Number two, one of the best things in a sea of bad decisions that I've made as a leader, starting as a father and as a husband, and then as a business leader, and then as a Marine officer, all these things, in a sea of mistakes that I've made, one of the best was my unit, that platoon, had to do the unit that we were training when that accident occurred. We had to do it again within a month before we deployed. That's the way it works. You have to get qualified or signed off on all these different missions that you're going to go do in the Gulf. So within 1 month's time, we've got 6 new teammates on our team, and they're all going to do this event. Well, I had broken my leg in the crash and could not fast rope on it. So the commanding general had asked me, had told me, hey, Cap, why don't you just come up in my helicopter and you'll be in an overwatch position? Well, Kevin, the big difference here is his helicopter is just going to stay in hover over the whole event. My Marines, those 2 helicopters are going to go and do the same exact flight mission that they just saw 6 of their 10 buddies die doing. And I readily accepted. Well, the night before we go, I didn't sleep at all. And that following morning, I go on the general's helicopter. And I didn't sleep the night before because I knew what the right answer was. but I also knew I was scared. And get on the general's helicopter, and at the last possible moment, I said, "Sir, I can't stay here. I need to go on that helicopter," which would be one of the two helicopters with my Marines. And I crutched on over there with my crutches and got on board their helicopter. And, that was a pivotal moment for me as a leader, because all leaders say, "Hey, I'll never ask you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself." And that, I think, is generally true. But I had an opportunity to prove it, and I proved it in that moment when everybody is scared, okay? Number one. Number two, when I talk about proving it, I proved it to myself. Like, I went to the Naval Academy because I didn't want the fear of failure to beat me. Well, I went into the Marines because I didn't want the fear of failure to beat me in special operations. Well, then, on that morning, I didn't let it beat me. And I haven't done anything in my life, to include getting caught in an avalanche on Mount Everest, equal the fear I felt that morning about to get back on a helicopter that I had barely survived on 3 weeks earlier. Those things, for your listeners, doing those things. And also, by the way, I have to be completely transparent. We talked about it all the time. The helicopter crash, we were together. We talked about it. We talked about our loss. We celebrated our teammates who we did lose in a way that they would want to have been celebrated. And all of those things were big things that either I did or we did or I received guidance on to make some silver lining from a thing that you've got to look real hard to find one.
As a safety leader, you have more risks to cover than hours in the day. That's where Vimosity comes in. We give you one platform to scale your impact, delivering expert curated safety campaigns on everything from slips, trips, and falls to heat stress and soft tissue injury prevention. You'll reach every crew through the channels they already use, while gaining data insights to guide smarter prevention. With Vimosity, you can boost awareness, prevent serious incidents, and keep your workforce ready for the job. Scan the QR code or visit Vimosity.com to learn how leading utilities are cutting injuries by 50%.
Man, that I so appreciate you sharing that. And as I think about, again, our listeners, a common theme is a tragedy happens and no one wants to talk about it. And maybe even expand on that just a little bit more of the importance of truth telling. Number one, like truth telling, I'm scared, I have fear about this, and then facing that fear. And number two is the importance of brotherhood, sisterhood, and being able to actually verbalize that, talk about it, and work through it collectively. Because there are a lot of crews out there that have, those situations happen, and it just, no one ever talks about it again. What's important about working through that in community?
Yeah, well, a couple of things here, right? First of all, I'll tell you, people ask me all the time, like, Cap, how do you move on from something like that or whatever? And I hate to use the term moving on. I don't know, it seems kind of disingenuous or a little bit. It's never really left me. I think about it. A lot, right? So what I hope is that I don't want that event to define me. Okay, yes. It stays with me. I haven't moved on from it, but it doesn't define me. And how do you do that? Yes, getting back to exactly the points you just brought up is admitting what happened, your fear of it, of it happening to you. When you see it, it's just very real. Talking to your brothers and sisters about it. All of those things. And by the way, I would definitely suggest, going to receive professional help for it too. Why not? That has nothing to do with you being a tough person. I mean, quite frankly, you're going to try to. I'd rather be the best dad and best husband that I can be than try to prove that I'm tough enough not to go see a therapist. I mean, that equation does not make sense to me, right? Like, I mean, Coach Snyder, legendary football coach at Kansas State football, Hall of Fame coach. He and I got a chance to sit down in his office one day for an hour. This is when he's 80 years old. And I got a chance to ask him, Coach, how do you, what would you tell your 30-year-old self about being a success? And he said, well, Cap, first of all, I'd write down on a piece of paper how you define success. That changes through your life, or it could change through your life. So write that down. And then write down everything that you do that keeps you from becoming it. Write down all the people that you associate with that keep you from becoming it. And then edit it all out of your life. Well, a couple months later, I was watching this special on Alabama football, and Kobe Bryant had gone in to speak to the football team. He said basically the same exact thing to Alabama football players, right? It really struck a chord with me. So, to the linemen, the journeyman, right? What I would say is write down how you define success. Well, one of those ways that I define success is being the best, and where it starts and really ends with me is being the best husband and best father that I can be. Well, if I'm doing something or not doing something that could help me become that, why am I doing that? Or why am I not doing it? That's ultimately a more important end game for me. Number one. Number two, I would also, let's take a step back from this though, because there is another piece of this that is vital, and we see it constantly in the energy industry with linemen, gas journeymen, but we see it in every industry. And that is, what did you do leading up to that incident? See, look, we're on just the nature of the beast. You're in a challenging environment here. I mean, you're working with things that can kill you, or at the very least seriously hurt you. As a lineman, as a gas journeyman, and there are other industries. Certainly, the fire department is a big one. The police department is another, right? I mean, first responders. Okay, fine. So, are you being great teammates to each other? Meaning, one of the ways that has helped me cope with that loss is, when you look at the video of the helicopter crash, nobody should survive it. Nobody should. All the safety protocols, the equipment, how you do that event, it was changed what felt like overnight after that accident, right? Nobody should survive what we went through. Well, look, 4 of us did. And why did the 4 of us do so? Number one, we trained at an incredibly high standard, physically, mentally, and emotionally, leading up to it. So, yes, 6 people died, but man, 4 people lived. That it should be 0, okay? We trained to an incredibly high standard. The 6 people who died, the 6 men who died, they happened to be sitting in the wrong place in the helicopter. If you were forward in the helicopter, you died. We were in the back. It was easier to get out. We survived. That's the only separating distinction. So nobody should have survived it. It's just that we trained to an incredibly high standard. What I would ask and challenge every single lineman, every single journeyman, every single fireman, what standard are you training to? Are you training to a standard where you hope nothing goes wrong? Or are you training to a standard expecting the wolf to show up? Okay, number one. Number two, while you're training and or while you're doing what you do, are you holding your teammates accountable? Kevin, the number of teams that we work with that say, hey, come on, bring it in. Hey, at the end of practice, right? Hey, this is what we need to do better. This is what we did well. Okay, on 3, family. 1, 2, 3, family. Then we work with that team and we think, yeah, that's a family, all right. That is one dysfunctional family, right? The lineman, right? Okay, the brotherhood, right? Well, I mean, there's a lot of brothers that they might be family members to me, but I don't want to associate with. I mean, are we truly our brother's keeper? Really, are we? Well, if you're letting somebody not follow your safety protocols, if you're letting somebody use PPE equipment or not use it, if you're allowing people to be in a bucket truck and not strap in and you're standing right there. I mean, most of these incidents that occur, I appreciate there's one man, trucks out there and all that stuff. But look, most incidents occur and there's another team member or a team leader even standing right next to the person when they get injured or worse. And they chose not to say something. Well, as a true brotherhood, we hold each other accountable. It can be uncomfortable to do so, but we do so as a means of making each other better. If you do that, then look, some bad things can still happen. It doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't. But not doing it, it guarantees failure, and then you're going to have to live with it. I had a choice to say something here, and I didn't. You have to live with that. Thankfully, I don't.
Thank you so much for sharing that. As you say all this, I'm just starting to see these themes from your book, The Program, come in to full light. I think we'll jump into that. I love the quote from Frederick the Great that you included. He who defends everything defends nothing. And you briefly talked about standards, but let's get into core values as the base, and then talk about the difference between standards and goals and holding each other to the standards. Because to me, that is so foundational in every single thing we do. If you could maybe just start off with the core values and why it's so important to have that ground you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to get myself in hot water with not only a lot of our clients, but a lot of potential clients, because it is not unique for an organization in any industry to have 14 core values, 10 core values. Well, look, by definition, 14 cannot be core. 10 cannot be core, right? Just by definition. Now, I think a lot of organizations do that because it looks nice on a prospectus, right? On an investment, the annual report. It sounds nice, but it's not core. And what we challenge organizations with, what we challenge individuals with, is figure out what truly is core to you. And remember, when you try to defend everything, you defend nothing. By making everything mission critical, nothing is mission critical. So what we challenge organizations and individuals for is figure out what your 3, maybe 4, if you want to argue 4, okay, we'll give you 4 core values. These are my non-negotiables. If you do a good job of figuring this out, and yes, through the program book there's a exercise that we provide to people to help them figure out their core values. We do this, as an in-person service with CEOs and executive teams. But not to be a bad salesman, but the truth is you don't need us and you don't need the book either. Just think about what your true values are. Talk to your significant other, your spouse, your kids, the people who work with you. Just ask them and then think about it yourself. You'll probably see a bunch of overlap and really think about it. In any event, excuse me, why is this important? Because your values, that's your true north. When you really understand, so look, I am selfless, tough, and disciplined. When I think in my life, the things that I'm most proud of, it's because I made a choice that was in alignment with my values. Conversely, when I think in my life of the things that I've done that I am not proud of, that I regret, that's because those things were not in alignment with my core values. We are faced with hundreds of choices every day. Many of them, admittedly, we make out of habit, out of hand. But think about as a husband, think about as a dad, the number of choices that I have to make when it comes to my children of, boy, what do we do here? How do I do, right? There's no manual for this stuff, right? So instead, my thought process is always based on what's selfless, what's tough, what's disciplined. It doesn't guarantee success, but you can make choices that are that do not align with your core values, and you could still end up with a pretty good outcome. But if we're going to do that consistently, our decisions in our thought process must be in alignment with our values. So first of all, we got to know what they are. 3, maybe 4. If you don't even know what your values are or can't remember them, then they're not core to you. So really, making sure you know what your values are, and then the next step would be defining them. And why do we define them? Well, getting back to what I said earlier, we're all a sum of our experiences, right? So for me, you mentioned earlier, right? My dad's a policeman, mom's a school teacher. I went to the Naval Academy, was an athlete most of my life, right? The Marines, special operation. Well, I have a certain mental picture based on all of those experiences, what a selfless person does, what a tough person does, what a disciplined person does. But that's based on my experiences. Everybody has different experiences in life. Not right, not wrong, but different. So not only have those values, but define them so you know what they mean to you first.
So that's fantastic. So I'm going to recap, because I think you did a great job in the book too, just defining this process. So what you said is even take a list of like 20, 30 words and then go through and just think, okay, what are those 3, maybe 4 words that resonate with you from a value standpoint? And then do an exercise of saying, what does this actually mean for me and how do I live it out in my life? And what I love about your approach too is it's not just waiting for your company to share their core values. It's you have your own personal values. And maybe that's even for your family. And as you lead your family, you're saying, as a family, these are our core values.
Yeah,
are we on with that?
100%. And it's funny because when I think about like my spouse and I, and when we have disagreements, right, arguments, it's because her core values are not exactly mine, and just being aware of that, like, look, we value different things. Now, it's not like, and by the way, if listeners think about somebody they may have been divorced from, right, it's probably because your and her or his core values were completely did not align. Okay, with my wife and I, when we have an argument, we have a very strong marriage, and I love that I'm married with her. Nobody else for me. Is that we don't share exactly the same 3. Being aware of that helps our relationship, right? That's also true for my children. Taking it to the step that you're talking about with your company has core values. If they are truly part of your culture, if those values truly determine your culture, just like the divorce from the marriage, if your values are not in alignment with them, you will end up leaving that company and being miserable there. By the same token, even if an organization says they have 10, if the truly core ones are part of their culture and you share them with that organization, you end up having a great career and spend 25 years there.
I love that. As a family, we have core values: adventure, grit, and faith, and those impact every aspect of our family. And
Yes.
it's amazing how, with raising 2 boys who are now 15 and 13, like we did a really hard hike this summer. It was like 21 miles of backcountry in one day.
Nice.
And
Where?
in the enchantments in Central Washington.
Okay.
And anyhow, it was just one of those situations where we had to go back to core values a couple times. Hey, we're a family of grit. Like when it gets tough, this is what we do.
Yes.
We are adventure, and so this is living it out, and it just reframes that, and it reinforces that purpose. And so, anyhow, I just know that from a family perspective, that's been a huge part of who we are, and it's really helped us as parents too.
Kevin, everything that we do at the program when we teach it, right, and develop it, the best feedback I receive and that we receive as an organization is when linemen, crew leaders, supervisors, the VPs, CEOs come to us and say, hey, I can't tell you what a better father, dad, mother, wife this has made me. Because for me, again, my number one team is my family. My number one team is. So, and if these things that we're talking about, the same things that make you a great teammate and a great leader as a mom, a dad, a husband, and a wife, it's a different battlefield, but it's the same exact things that are going to make you a great teammate and great leader at your company. These two things should not be mutually exclusive.
Yeah. No, I love that. Can you talk about the difference between standards and goals? Because oftentimes I think what we do is we set goals for ourselves, but we don't also think about the standards, and
Yes.
then the standards start to erode,
Yeah.
and we don't realize that what's chipping away at our culture is a lack of holding up the standards.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the way I'd describe them is to share with your audience a personal story. My wife and I, we have a 14-year-old as of this past Saturday, 14-year-old son and an 8.5-year-old daughter. That age gap was not by design. We got married later in life. Our plan was have a child right away, wait a year, second child, wait a year, third child. Well, life didn't exactly work out that way. Well, after we got married and had our son very soon, my wife then went through 4.5 years of IVF and multiple miscarriages, multiple surgeries, really just, really the definition of toughness there. And at the end of these 4.5 years, where we have one viable embryo left that they want to reinsert inside the woman, my wife, but this is at a risk where they want to reinsert 3 viable embryos. We only have one left. Well, that one ends up becoming our now 8.5-year-old, as I describe her, terrorist daughter. Well, along the way there, we wanted to have a bigger family, and although we never lost hope, we could do some basic statistics. So we looked into adoption, and over that 5-year kind of journey of getting pregnant, losing pregnancies, in the hospital, out of the hospital, get pregnant, stay pregnant, breastfeeding. We're getting taken on and off, down and back off the adoption website. Finally, after 5 years, my wife and I say, hey, look, this adoption thing isn't working out. Let's become foster parents. A week later, the adoption agency calls us and says, hey, you've been selected to adopt a little baby boy. Okay, so we have another discussion. All right, we're going to adopt this little baby boy. This is right during COVID. So I drive down to New York City. I pick him up and I drive him home, and our family's complete. Now, this little boy, he was not white. So at some point in his life, he was going to figure out that he was not our biological child. Well, in an effort to ensure that he would know that that meant nothing to my wife and I, we decided to name him Eric Louis Kapitulik Jr. We're home together. 3 weeks later, the birth mother changed her mind and wanted her son back. So I had to take her son from my wife, my daughter, and my son, who were bawling their eyes out on the kitchen floor, bring him back in the car, drive back down to New York City, drop him off at the social worker, and come home. Well, on the way down to New York City, my wife had called me and had said, hey, Eric, is it okay if Axel doesn't go to school tomorrow? Axel, our son, 6 years old maybe at the time. Is it okay if Axel doesn't go to school? I said, yeah, Melissa, look, whatever you want. Well, I continue my drive to New York City. I return him to the social worker. And now I'm driving back home and I'm thinking about that conversation I had with my wife earlier. And I call her back and say, hey, Melissa, if you haven't spoken to Axel yet, don't. I'd like to speak to him when I get home. Well, I got home later that night and got Axel up, and he and I sat down on our kitchen table, and I had this conversation with him, and I just asked him, I said, Axel, is winning important? And he said, yeah, Dad. And I said, yes, it is. If it weren't, it wouldn't feel so good. And losing wouldn't feel so bad. Kevin, those are goals. They're performance-based. Are they important? Yes, they're important. If they weren't important, they wouldn't feel so good to accomplish, and they wouldn't feel so bad if you don't. Winning is better than losing, okay? As I explained to my son. But as I then continued to explain to him, Axel, it is important. And we have to be aware of winning and losing, aware of it. But what I'd like you to do is stay focused on being selfless, tough, and disciplined. On being the best teammate and best leader you can be. That's what I want to have you stay focused on. Just like you did to Junior the last 3 weeks. Just stay focused on this. Yes, be aware that winning and losing, goals are important. But standards, those values that we have, selfless, tough, and disciplined, and the standards that reinforce them. Daily standards. Get up early. Ask Mom if she needs help with Junior. Spend extra time with him. Those daily behaviors that reinforce what it means to be selfless, tough, and disciplined. If you can stay focused on those, unfortunately, you're still going to suffer loss in your life. I want to be transparent. I want to be a man of integrity with you. And when you do, it's going to hurt when you lose. And sometimes it's going to hurt real bad. But even knowing that, if you can still stay committed to selfless, tough, and discipline and the standards that reinforce those core values, if you can still stay committed to being the best teammate and best leader you can be, and selfless, tough, and discipline is how we define them, then, yep, you're going to suffer some loss in your life. But you will end up, in the last full measure, being wildly successful in it. That's true for my son, Kevin. That's true for all of us. Yes, we have to be aware of winning and losing. It matters. It matters. But let's stay focused on our values and then the standards that reinforce those values. Great that you say you're tough. Okay, but how do you prove it every day to yourself and to everybody else? Well, as the conversation went on, as I told Axel, hey, let me define tough for you. Because when I left here, you were bawling your eyes out. Axel, tough guys have emotion. Really tough guys can show emotion at a time of their choosing. And third, really, really tough guys can ask for help with those emotions if they need them. And your mom and dad will always be here to help you with them. But then I paused and I said, but Axel, I want to be clear about being tough. See, tomorrow morning your mom is going to wake up and she's going to go to work because she's a tough guy. And you're going to get up and you're going to go to school because so are you. We aren't born that way. We have to develop it. That's true for us as a family. That's true for whatever the organization is, whatever the team is of which your listeners are a part.
And Eric, that is such a powerful story. And thank you for sharing that. I think the big takeaway too is that goals are performance-based and standards are behavior-based. And it takes a conscious decision to continue to realign to those core values to show up. And I also love what you said. We work closely with, he's a lineman named Brady Hansen, and he talks about how getting tough is getting help. And, so often we confuse toughness with not getting help, not saying that we need to, to seek help. And so I appreciate
Yes.
you sharing that story about
Yes.
Axel and what it
Yes.
looks like to be tough and to,
Yes.
maintain those standards. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you for asking about it. That is key to our success. And as I said earlier, let's define our values. Well, Doc, let me define tough the way we define tough as a family and as a company. What a tough person does. A tough guy, universal use of the word guy, man, woman. A tough person has an ability to stay mission focused in the face of physical, mental, and emotional adversity. That's how we define tough. Let me say it again. An ability to stay mission focused in the face of physical, mental, and emotional adversity. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong for anybody that's out there, but I'm saying that's right for us. Well, let's use that definition as it pertains to getting help. If you believe that that's truth, or some version of how we define tough is truth to you, well then, whatever I need to do to help me stay mission focused in the face of this physical, mental, and emotional adversity that I'm faced with. By definition, the logical sequencing there means if speaking with a trained professional on a consistent basis helps me and allows me to stay mission focused, that by definition means that is a tough act that you are doing. I mean, if you believe that to be truth, well, then that's just logical sense. I mean, I'm not, you know what I mean? It's not like this isn't some secret potion. It's you do those things that you need to do to help ensure that you're in alignment with your values. And if that's how you define tough, that may mean and can very often mean seeking professional help.
That's so powerful. And to build off of that, you talked about brotherhood or sisterhood earlier in this conversation. What does accountability play into maintaining standards as well? Because it seems like that's a critical component
Yeah.
to the standards is the accountability aspect.
If I could, I would like to, and I'm going to circle back to accountability and the importance of it. But along with that, ways to help, and we talked about speaking with a trained professional, I would be remiss if I didn't challenge every single listener of yours to commit to physical fitness. This isn't like what Eric Kapitulik thinks or what the program believes. This is science, okay? Harvard just released a study. If you vigorously run, and they consider vigorous to be, I can't talk to the person I'm running with, right? You're breathing so hard. It lowers your chance of depression by 26%. If you do it for 15, not 50, 15 minutes a day, vigorous running, all out, can't talk to the person next to you, lowers your chance of depression by 26%. Now, interestingly, what they also published was if you walk, just walk leisurely 15 minutes a day. And what is leisure? How do they define leisure? Like, hey, on lunch break, we go for a walk and we have a conversation around the parking lot. It lowers your chance of depression by 26%. The same exact amount. So I'm not going to stand up here and beat a drum about the, get in shape, do what you need to, but I want to remind everybody that physical, mental, emotional health, those three things are not separate entities. Those three things go hand in hand. What does physical fitness mean? It does not mean racing the Ironman, climb Mount Everest. Physical fitness means do something. Do something. Stretch, walk, but commit to doing something. No, not for 5 hours a day. I mean, Kevin, great. You and your family want to get after it, right? I mean, I think it's awesome, by the way, right? And okay, so maybe that's what it means to you. But hey, to somebody else, like, look, do your morning stretches in the morning. Go for a walk during lunch. Don't make an excuse not to do it. It has a direct link to your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Okay, now I'll get off the soapbox and I'll get back to accountability.
Can I just speak up to that as well? Because
Yeah.
even 15 to 30 minutes of low intensity exercise on most days per week, so like 4 to 5 days per week, cuts down your risk of the 5 major killers like cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes by like 50%. It's like there's so much magic when it comes to health and movement. So I just want to add that to it because it's like it's such a powerful antidote. And I think it goes beyond. A lot of people say, my work is physical, so I'm exercising all day. But I think there's something about also, like you said, just getting away and walking for 15 minutes at the end of the day, or just having that time to clear your head. So I just want to throw a plug in there too, because I'm in total alignment with you.
Yes. Do something. That's it. I mean, just do something, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now let's talk about accountability, okay? First of all, when we think about accountability and the importance of it, as we discuss it, good friends are nice to each other. We tell each other what we want to hear. Doc, the truth is we all want to be well liked. I mean, it's a human condition. We all do. We all want to be good friends to each other. Good friends are nice. We tell each other what we want to hear. Nice is a form of laziness. Great teammates are kind to one another. Great teammates tell each other what we need to hear. It's not nice or kind. It's not good friends or great teammates. It's be both. Being good friends to each other is never the problem, except when being good friends to each other becomes more important than being great teammates for each other. Be both. Great teammates hold each other accountable. Why? Because by doing so, even though it's incredibly uncomfortable for me, all of us want to be well liked. Even though it's incredibly uncomfortable for me, I'm going to hold you accountable because by doing so, it makes you a better version of yourself. It keeps you safer. I mean, in the energy industry, look, everybody comes to work in the morning. Our ability to hold each other accountable ensures that everybody goes home safely at night. So when somebody's holding me accountable, I get it. My initial emotional reaction internally is going to be, oh, what are you talking about? I've been doing it this way forever. Oh, what do you know, boot, young guy, Look, emotional resiliency means that we don't get angry and we flail. I mean, a child gets angry and has temper tantrums. But if we're adults, we don't throw temper tantrums. By the same token, complacency kills. We also don't let happiness just drive everything that we're doing here, right? The best teammates and best leaders are emotionally resilient. What does that mean? We have an ability to stay mission focused in the face of emotional resiliency, in the face of emotional adversity. When somebody holds us accountable, we're going to experience a certain internal emotion. Yeah, but emotionally resilient people don't just flail. Children do that. We think, and that's what makes it key to being the best teammates and best leaders. We think, how do I respond to this natural human emotion that I'm feeling that's best going to help my team accomplish its mission? Well, if my teammate is holding me accountable, what I know is it's uncomfortable for them to be doing this. So I have a teammate that's holding me accountable. It's uncomfortable for them to do so, and they're doing it with my best interest at heart. I'm going to yell at that person. I'm going to make excuses. I'm going to make them feel uncomfortable. No, I should respond with one thing. Thank you. Thank you. That type of culture that everybody is doing that for each other, it's incredibly difficult to create. It requires great teammates and great leaders. It requires great leaders to embody that thank you culture or mindset. It requires, we work with companies and they're saying, oh, the linemen need to hold each other accountable more. To which we ask the executives, do the linemen ever see you holding other executives accountable? Like, do they see you holding the CEO accountable? I mean, this culture, it is a culture of accountability. That starts with the leaders. A circle of safety. Man, our guys need to do circles of safety. Walk around the truck before check your surroundings before you get in the truck. Okay, well, vice president, at headquarters, when you get in your car at the end of the day, do you do a circle of safety, right? It starts with personal accountability, number one. Number two, it requires great leadership to instill this thank you attitude over accountability. And just continue to work on it. There's a number of different ways that we suggest it when we work with organizations. We talk about doing regular debriefs. Hey, before we leave this job site, we're going to have a discussion about what went well and what we can improve. So now we're just standardizing accountability. And then a key piece of it is when we think of accountability, most of us think about when somebody's not doing something. When, yes, that is a piece of it. But first and foremost, I want us to think about accountability. We want organizations to think about accountability, and we want leaders and teammates to think about accountability of when people are meeting the standards. Walk around looking for people doing it. And there should be benefits to doing so. Even if that benefit is, man, I love that I show up here and everybody has the right PPE equipment on. This is awesome. And you as a leader might think, well, please, listen, if you're going to show up somewhere and if it's not, the PPE equipment isn't out, the people aren't in the right gear and equipment, if you're going to hold people and there's going to be consequences for not doing so, then you better damn well be sure that there's benefits for when you show up and everybody is in it, that there's benefits for it too. There should be both. So a key piece of accountability that I would like everybody is like a reminder to take away. Yes, it's about when people aren't meeting the standard. It should also very much be about when people are meeting the standard too.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I think it's Henry Cloud. He's written a couple books. One of them is called Boundaries for Leaders, but he says you get what you create and allow, and the culture that you create and allow. And as a leader of a business, I didn't like to have tough conversations, and
No.
I always viewed things as tough conversations. But then he also has a statement in that book that says it's unkind to be unclear. And I see myself as a kind person, and I realized that I was actually being unkind by not having those tough conversations with other people on my team. And oftentimes it wasn't critical, and it wasn't like they were trying to, do the wrong thing or not hold to the standards. They just needed some coaching. They needed that awareness that, oh, I didn't even realize that this was happening. And so for me, a huge transformation from a leadership standpoint was just realizing that if I don't say anything and I just keep letting that happen, I'm being unkind to that person. I don't know if you have a response to that. But
The standard guy that used to work here used to always say, like, the standard you walk past is the new standard you set. He came from the drill field, the Marine Corps drill field, and that was their saying there. The standard you walk past is the new standard you set. What a easy way to remember exactly what you're talking about, and what Henry, the author Henry Cloud, talks about, right? You what you allow is what your culture is, right? Same thing. The standard you walk past is the new standard you set, 100%. And by the way, I would take it one step further with leaders, or not one step further, but I would drill down a little bit here. because we tend to think about big things, what I would highlight is, people submit expense reports, let's just say, and there's mistakes on the expense report. And what does a leader do? Hey, I'll just correct this for them. And they put, oh, okay, but eventually you're going to get an expense report and you're not going to have the time, and you're going to get really upset at that person because their expense report is still wrong. Yeah, but you've never told them what the mistakes are that you're consistently correcting. And most people, you say, hey, look, on the expense report, do this, do that. This is what you have to do. And they go, oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Like, I won't keep doing it wrong, but I didn't know I was making the mistake in the first place, right? So those little things, and exactly as you said about being very clear, is key. And I've certainly, by the way, for what it's worth, oh God, have I made the same mistake countless times.
Well, Eric, this has been so great to have this conversation about the core values, standards, goals. It's really helped. I think all of us have benefited from it. Can you tell us a little bit about the program and how you started it and what you actually do with teams and corporations?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the question. First, let me start by saying that I am the founder, and I'm very proud about being the founder. But I founded it, but I would be out of business if not for the we. We have made it what it is. I think one of the very unique things about the program is there's a lot of one-person consultancies out there that tell people what they should do. But I always wonder, like, what if I'm a company hiring one of these person by themselves? I would ask, like, okay, but you don't have to eat your own cooking, right? Like, as a company at the program, we've got to eat our own cooking here, right? Because we're a team, and the things that we teach, oh God, I experience them every day as the leader of the program, and the challenges of teammates and of having them, and so the program, when I founded it, but I would be out of business if not for the we. But the quick story, I had gone out of the Marine Corps, out of business school. I had worked in finance for about a year and a half. It just wasn't for me. I worked at Goldman Sachs. Doc, Goldman Sachs is a great company. I mean, I know some people are like, oh, hoity-toity Goldman Sachs and upper crust and all this. And maybe that's true on, for some of the people that are there and whatever. Look, I worked with great people there, super smart, talented. I can't say enough good things about it as an organization. It wasn't for me. It just wasn't. And so I decided, hey, at the time I was an assistant lacrosse coach. I was, kind of moonlighting, doing some work at a local high school, prep school outside of Boston. And I kind of noticed all these prep schools have these really, really nice weight rooms. But at best, they would have like a science teacher in there in the afternoon, making sure kids didn't kill themselves. So I decided I wanted to stay in athletics, and I thought the way that I can start this business is by providing hourly strength and conditioning coaches to these high schools. Unlike colleges where the weight room gets used throughout the entire day, high school it gets used for 2 hours, 3 hours every day. That's it. So the program would provide hourly strength and conditioning coaches. And in year one, we did have a few contracts. We were making money doing it. But at the same time, Coach John Tillman, who's now the head lacrosse coach at the University of Maryland, one of the GOATs in lacrosse, he had been an assistant lacrosse coach at the Naval Academy when my last tour of duty in the Marines was back at the Naval Academy. And the head coach, some guys had gotten in trouble. The head coach called me up, who had been my head coach my senior year. The head coach called me up and said, hey, Cap, can you come down here and just wear these guys out for getting in trouble for a couple days, right? So I did. Fast forward a few years later, I just start the program. The assistant coach, John Tillman, now becomes the head coach at Harvard. He calls me up. I had just started the program, and he said, hey, Cap, can you come down here and do what you did at Navy, but teach these guys a little bit about toughness training, right? Yep, great. I'll come provide some. So I went down there and worked out with the team. That's what I did. But at the time, I would call out some of the team captains to come out and lead some of the exercise with me. And these are, I mean, look, this is Harvard, right? I mean, these guys are smart. They're great athletes, Division I athletes, great athletes, smart, great shape, good human beings, all of that stuff. But they really struggled just communicating effectively with their teammates. At the end of that training, what the coaches then provided me with feedback was, Cap, we hired you to work with our team, and as good as it was for them, it was better for us as coaches, hearing you interact with our players, right? And what was I interacting them with was things like what it means to be a great teammate, what it means to be a great leader, the importance of physical, mental, emotional resiliency, the importance of taking responsibility, the importance of being an effective communicator. Okay, that's what I'm going over with the players, all right? Well, in year one, we ended up working with two other, but three in total college men's lacrosse teams. By year two, we worked with, that was me, I worked with. By year two, we worked with 9 college athletic teams. By year 3, we worked with 30, and we were completely out of the strength and conditioning business. And we now work with more than 160 collegiate and professional athletic teams and corporations throughout North America doing exactly the same thing as far as the curriculum is concerned. We still are teaching what it means to be a great teammate and great leader, the importance of physical, mental, emotional resiliency, taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens or fails to happen, the importance of effective communication. And then we set up our experiential training to help develop those skills that we teach in a classroom. It's just our belief that everybody's a hero when it's 70 degrees and sunny out. Everybody gives you the right answer when they're in a climate-controlled room. Unfortunately, we need great teammates and great leaders, not just when it's 70 degrees and sunny out, but when it's hitting the fan. So we create our experiential training that puts people under pressure and some stress to help develop those skills that we teach. We do that in 1, 2, 3, 4-day courses. We have an 8-week where we come back on a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis, Leadership Development Academy, and then we do our consulting services. I also, and it's how we first met, I personally am hired to speak about leadership and attacking adversity to organizations throughout, maybe 20 times a year to organizations throughout North America.
Yeah, and you do such an excellent job of that. You talked about the we. How many coaches do you have on your team, or trainers do you have on your team?
Yeah, the program, I appreciate the comment because it gets back to some of the things that we talked about today, at the end of last year and setting a standard and holding people to a standard. We really had a major restructuring at the program at the end of last year. An individual got fired. He had been stealing from the program, and then other people who had been with me for a long time left for, if you ask them, because of me. If you ask me, I'll tell you it's about holding the standards, right? Where the truth lies, it's probably like a divorce. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, right? But in any event, we have gone through a major restructuring at the program in that as a leader, how we were doing business could not continue. It had gotten us to a certain point, and we were never going to get past that point. And you just have to look at our financials for the last 3 years to see they're staying at this same point. And for me, that's unacceptable because getting back to earlier, why I went to the Navy, why I got to put the rock in place, why I went to the Naval Academy, why I went there. Consistent self and team improvement. Get better. Everybody that works at the program must be committed to consistent self and team improvement. We ended up losing a lot of people for it. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way too, Doc. So I'm 100% responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen here. We went from a maximum of 14 full-time and part-time people down to 6 at one point. And now as we continue to grow, now we're back up to 12, and we're going to continue to grow as we find more individuals who are going to take us from where we're at to where we're going. So we're we went through a very challenging time here in 2025, and like all adversities, as long as you treat it as such, it's been a wonderful growth opportunity for us.
Well, and a great opportunity for you to put into practice some of these
Oh,
things that you talk about every single
yeah,
day. It's like,
daily.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can't end this interview without talking about your Ironman experience and Mount Everest. If you don't
Yeah.
mind, just sharing a
Yeah.
little bit more about that. And I think that I'm going to link to this in the show notes, the video that you show at the start of your keynote presentation of that explains a little bit more about the helicopter crash that we talked about, the families
Yeah.
that were impacted,
Yeah.
and how you use that to fuel your performance as an Ironman athlete and raise money for the families. But can you share a little bit more
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. So, in response to this helicopter crash, we were on deployment, and I decided I'd set up a college scholarship fund for the children of my deceased teammates. So, should they choose to go to college one day, they'd have the financial resources to do so. If they choose not to go to college, they would then get a lump sum of money at the age of 25. And then I had to figure out how I was going to raise money for this college scholarship fund. Doc, as my joke goes, I always say this in my corporate speeches, let me tell you what I think is the single greatest thing about being a graduate of the Naval Academy. And again, this is just me personally. When people find that out about you, never again do you get asked, what was your GPA? That's what I think is the single greatest thing about being a graduate. But if you graduate with a 2.02 GPA at ranked 962nd out of 992 graduates, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to raise money for a college scholarship fund, participating in calculus is probably not the right idea for you, right? So instead, I thought that I would try to get sponsorship and this thing, and through my participation in Ironman triathlons, climbing the world's tallest mountains, things that I was already doing, but now I figured instead of just doing them just for me, that I could get some sponsorship, do that stuff, and try to raise some money from it. So I did. And since then till today, I've competed and completed 8 Ironman triathlons. I've run across Alaska, summited 5 of the 7 summits, the tallest peaks on the 7 continents, to include Mount Everest and that stuff. So, yes, that's what I did in response to the helicopter crash. I always highlight to people that I was already doing those things. I just kind of tweaked it so that I figured I could do this. And by the way, doing so, I let everybody know, because they go, oh my God, how selfless is this of you? It really isn't. It really was very therapeutic for me, probably, when I think back on it, to do it. And so, yes, and if these young children of my deceased teammates, we can help on some small level. I mean, certainly their moms did. I don't even want to speak about this in the same breath as what their moms have done for those kids. So little minuscule bit, I had my part in it, and but helped me probably even more than it helped them. So that's what I've done, and along the way, again, doing things like the Ironman, where it scared me. I wasn't sure if I could do it. Climbing mountains. I started climbing mountains when I was in the Marines. I got sent to mountain leaders course, and I was pretty good at it. Like, I'm not a real technical climber. I'm not a lead climber. I mean, I'm trained. The Marine Corps trains you to be a lead climber, but that's not really me. I'm the pack mule in a mountaineering team. I can put on a really big, heavy pack and carry it for long distances and up big mountains, and I just enjoy doing it. Maybe not at the time. I mean, cold, wet, miserable, tired isn't fun for anybody, but the sense of accomplishment that I get from doing those things really helps scratch the itch about continuing to challenge myself.
Well, Eric, Man, this was such a fantastic conversation. I'm so grateful that you
Well,
took the time and man, just so many practical takeaways. And I think our listeners are going to have so much value. I thank you for teaching us about what it means to set standards, set those values, and hold each other accountable. So I hope that a lot of people are blessed and encouraged through this conversation. Anything that you want to add here at the end?
I was just last week, I was climbing Mount Washington in New Hampshire with a group of corporate executives from the UK. I'll give a shout out to the team reelers here. Awesome group of people, men and women. And on the hike up, I was talking to one of the executives, and he was asking me about things from the Marine Corps that really made an impact on me. And I said, a lot of people, you mentioned the helicopter crash, and a lot of people have seen that video because of the Ironman video that was made of it and all that stuff. And it's certainly a huge impact for me. I said, but one thing that not a lot of people know that I had the privilege of doing so and has made a lifelong impact on me was there was one day when I was at the Naval Academy. My commanding officer came to me and he asked me if I'd volunteer for this duty because he couldn't order me to do it. I had to volunteer. And after doing so, I went home, I put on my dress blue uniform. I drove out to the eastern shore of Maryland, out to Centerville, Maryland. Drove up this family's driveway, got out of my car, walked up their steps and rang the doorbell. And waited for the mom to answer the phone, so I answer the door, so that I could tell her that her son had just been shot and killed in Iraq. And I shared that story with this gentleman as we hiked up Mount Washington on a very challenging day, on a very challenging hike. Because, as I said to him, because of that experience, if you ever have to do it, get out of the car, walk up the drive steps, ring the doorbell, and wait there, knowing that when the door is answered, you, not some bad guys over in Iraq, you are about to ruin this mom and dad's life. Ruin it. You are. If you come and have dinner at my house and you say, I had a hard day, I had a hard practice, my kids at 8.5 and 14 will tell you, no, sorry, we don't use that here. We use challenging. If you have a sick friend, family member, the death of a loved one, somebody suffering, you mentioned cancer earlier, you want to talk about those things as hard, by all means. You'll get no argument from us. But I don't ever want to hear in my house that you had a hard day in school. Just like you're never going to hear me talk about a hard day at work, the restructuring that we went to. That wasn't hard either. All of the things that we do on a regular day-to-day basis, your hike, 21 miles, that wasn't hard. It was a challenge. It's challenging. As warriors, we love a challenge. We attack challenges, or we should. But by human nature, we want to get through the things that are hard. Just get through them. How you think about things on a daily basis affects how you talk about things, which affects how you act and react to things. Thankfully, the same is true in the opposite direction. If you're in a bad mood, put a smile on your face. It makes you happier. Talk about good things happening. You get happier. Hard versus challenging. I shared it with this corporate executive as we hiked up a very challenging hike at Mount Washington, and it kind of reminded me. And as we close today, I guess maybe I'd leave that as a closing thought for everybody.
I love it. That's a mic drop moment. Thank you so much for ending there. Well, we are so grateful that you joined the show today. Thank you for joining the WorkReady podcast. And until then, let's get to work.